SysloSpice digital recipes for dominance. SysloSpice. Recipes for digital dominance. Hello everybody, we're gonna dive right in. All right, here's what's going on. So we got a little bit of SysloSpice coming at you. We're gonna do free weekly trainings on everything relating to marketing, digital media, video production, video editing, website design, graphic design, social media design, how to generate more leads, growing a digital brand, brand transformation, brand strategies. They're all gonna be free live trainings that you're gonna get an accessible link to. We're gonna do it every Wednesday at 7 p.m. My goal is to really educate you, give you some spice, throw some heat on it, build it all together so that you have everything you need for free to check out and improve your brand, your marketing efforts on social media right now, especially right now with everything that's required to bring your brand, your business, whatever it may be, into the digital era. So I hope to see you there. Sign up, let's get you on. I look forward to seeing you there. SysloSpice, recipes for digital dominance. I'll see you there. All right, everybody. Hello, good evening. Thank you for joining me tonight. Another SysloSpice. We got like 7 hours of content. That's crazy. Like we've done 7 hours worth of training. So hopefully this is coming through. Yeah, it's coming through nice, loud and clear. But thank you so much for everybody joining tonight. What we're going to talk about is how to select and how to identify audiences and analyze that. So why is that important to understand? How do you even begin to do that? I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving, by the way. So last week we talked about how to market to the holidays. This is kind of a continuation of that, really getting you set up to know who you're talking to and how to identify exactly how to get that done. So if you haven't seen any of the other replays, you could go to my YouTube channel. They're all there. There's a whole playlist of them right now. This one will be uploaded right after it's ready to go. So we'll get that up on YouTube and you can access these replays at any time. So if you ever just want to go listen to stuff, check it out. I also have a 24/7 live stream on my YouTube channel that's been running pretty much every day for the last 4 weeks. So you could hop in there anytime, watch it, connect with it, check out everything that we have going on with it. It's got everything, pretty much every video I've ever made about marketing and advertising is contained in there. It's enough to loop for 14 hours. So there you go. And then we add new stuff every single week, right? All right, good. So we'll get started and we'll talk about how to select and analyze an audience. Now, where this really comes from, it comes from understanding how to sell, okay? And if you're a salesperson or you're an executive or you're a CEO and you've sold before and you've gotten on the phone with people, you might have already an advanced leg up over most people, because the idea that sales, as a sales professional, the skills that you get from that are invaluable, right? And really what that sets you up to do is it sets you up to be an aggressive and effective marketer, right? You're not just a salesperson. Most salespeople think they're just salespeople, but if you were adventurous enough to say as a sales professional and say, okay, I want to start marketing myself. I want to build my own brand, or as a business owner, you want to do something like that. That sales role that you have, the problems that you solve for people when you get on the phone, the way that you communicate to people, the way that you analyze people, the way that you listen really is the big thing. Listening is the primary deal there. But the way that you listen to that and what people are saying and what they're coming to you with sets you up to build audiences. And for me, when I work with a company or if we consult a company and they're having issues with their marketing, the first thing I ask them to do is to get all their salespeople together and sit down with them and talk to them and find out what is it that people are discussing on the phones? What are they saying? You know, why did those people buy if they closed the deal? Why didn't they buy? What's the common problem that comes up? What's the common reason why somebody keeps coming back and maybe doesn't buy? Or why do you have repeat customers? What are the 5, 6, 7, 8 different things that allow you to close a deal and sell that deal? And so that ability to perceive and understand this is what gives you the leg up when you're going to build an audience. So we're going to go into that. We got a lot of notes that we're going to get through today. Last week, we kind of did a shorter episode, but I intend to go at least an hour this week. So we're going to dive into all that stuff, but really take it from the viewpoint of a sale. Okay. Anytime you post content, anytime that you set up ads on Facebook, anytime that you set up a Google campaign, whether it's a PPC campaign, YouTube campaign, and we're going to dive into this over the next 2 weeks. This is the precursor. There's a little bit of theory today. And then the next 2 weeks, we're going to actually show you how we select audiences on Facebook and on YouTube. We're just going to give you kind of a high level overview of that so you can explore it, and then we'll take questions as we go. But what I'm going to talk about right here really is going to set you up to have a more effective campaign, to have something that's going to work more effectively for you and get the results that you're looking for right off the bat. Okay. So back to the idea of a sales professional. Okay. You are a salesperson, even if you're a marketer. Okay. If you don't get on the phone and you talk to people, I've worked with people that were just like, well, I don't really want to call people. I had a guy tell me, he's like, I don't want to talk to leads. He's in real estate, by the way. And he goes, I don't really want to talk to leads. I just want people to come to me. And I was like, I don't quite understand what you're saying, because that doesn't really make sense to me. In order to get sales, you have to talk to somebody. And even if you're doing an e-commerce site, there's still a communication that's going on there, right? So you have to be able to know how to communicate, what to say, how to break that down. So the purpose of this, point number one, is to find and identify the correct communication that has to take place. And we're going to dive into that right now. So this is not, it's not about what I think. It's not about what I think is going to be good. It's not about what I think is what somebody wants. It's about what they actually want. It's about what they actually need. It's about what they already have as a preconceived notion. And I'll refer to they here as your quote unquote audience that we're going to be working with, that you're going to want to get in front of. Now, from a communication standpoint, people often think, all right, well, I said it one time. I made one video. I did one post, or I did 3 or 4 posts this week, and I feel pretty good about that. But if you look, the ones that don't work are these ones that communicate the same thing kind of over and over again. There's no diversification inside of that communication. Now, tracking back to being a sales professional, okay, that salesperson who you talk to right now is going to be different on the next call and the call after that, the call after that, all day long, okay? Every conversation is going to go differently because you're dealing with a different individual who has his own personal set of problems, who has her own personal set of things they're trying to accomplish, their own level of income, their own type of business, their own type of industry, their own type of problems, their own type of staff, like we could go on and on and on and on and on about that. Now, an audience is composed of all of those things. So your job when you're setting up an audience and when you're creating what it is that's going to be your advertisements, you have to think about, how do I capture the most problematic, or the most, what's the word I'm looking for, repetitive thing first that I hear the most, okay? Now, in order to do that, you're going to have to do a little bit of a survey. And that's what I mean by, if you're a business owner, pull all your sales team around and just do like a lunch and have fun and talk about it and figure out what it is that people are experiencing on the phones. If it's just yourself, start taking inventory of that information. Make a little log, create a little spreadsheet, whatever it is. I have spreadsheets up the wazoo on leads. Like I tell them what they came up with, what we struggled with. I mean, at the beginning I was like that. Now it's pretty much mental. Like I just can store all that information. But the reason being is because I need to understand that I can't just communicate one way to one person and hope that it gets to everyone. It doesn't work like that, okay? I could talk to somebody, I'll give you an example today. Like I talked to somebody who was just starting out in their business, brand new, never marketed before, had minimal funds to be able to do some marketing and advertising. And then the next call after that, I was talking to a company that's got, they did about 115 million in sales last year. So those two conversations, one right after another, are totally different. However, the mechanics of what I do can service both of those individuals. And that's the part I don't think people think about when they're building their audiences. You have certain mechanics, processes, systems, things that you put in place that you built and developed over time that solves a problem, majoritarily solves a problem for everybody that you're trying to reach out to. But where the foul up comes when you're analyzing an audience or you're looking at an audience is that you're only looking at it you might only be looking at it from the perspective of yourself, and forgetting to switch the viewpoint on that and looking at the viewpoints of all the other people on the other side of the camera, or looking at all the other problems that they could possibly have on the other side of the camera. Now, how do you break that out, right? So it's the correct level of communication that has to take place. Without that, your audience analysis it's basically worthless. Like people say, well, I saw somebody, I think I talked about this maybe in our first training, but somebody was like, spend 100 hours learning your audience before you put one piece of content out. I'm against that. I would rather you put the content out and kind of work it out. But as you're talking to people, as you're listening to what people come to you with a problem, as you're seeing what's happening as time goes on, you can actually take stock of that. So that 100 hours should happen simultaneously. Don't stop yourself from promoting, and don't worry about it making nonsensical nonsense or whatever. You want to just put yourself in the position that you're actually communicating, but you want to spend the time on the refinement of that communication, the diversification of that communication, right? So coming back to what I was just saying, the business owner that was just starting is different than the guy that's making $112 million a year. They have a whole set of viewpoints, mindset, perspectives, attempts that they're trying to handle, versus this individual who's just beginning, who's never done it before. But they both want marketing. They both want more. They both want to reach more, and they both want to capture a larger audience. So what is it that has to happen for me when I talk to them? Well, we analyze the product first. Obviously, you take an inventory of what the product actually is, what the product's going to be. Is it even a viable product is really the most important thing. Then you start looking at it with that diversification method that I was explaining, okay? Who's going to buy this? Is it going to be somebody that's making $32,000 a year? Is it going to be somebody that's making $24,000 a year? Is it going to be somebody that's making $1 million a year, $500,000, 10 million? Who's going to buy it? Could somebody at that level buy it? And that's where you have to go with it. See, this is where the selection in the audience starts to come into play. Who is going to buy it, and what income bracket do they live at? That's probably the most generic one, income, okay? And then the next thing you have to look at from an audience standpoint is, how would I talk to the person that's making $1 million versus the person that's making $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year on a salary? They're totally different conversations. Now, the person making $50,000, $60,000 a year may have enlightenment enough, and you have to think about this. Maybe there's a person out there that's on a salary but wants to do their own thing, but I want to sell them a product. So how do I get that guy? Well, I should make content that would relate to people that are making $60,000 a year for that specific product. Then I would come back and distribute content that would be for your $100 million Fortune 1,500 company, right? Because I could create a singular, cohesive, amazing message with one video, with one advertisement, with one graphic, and I can go into Facebook Business Manager and I could say my demographic is 15 miles around Miami, Florida, with an income between $500,000 to $1 million. Their interests are real estate, luxury, travel, social betterment, personal development. Break all that out. People who follow certain influencers, and get myself injected into that ecosystem. And then I distribute out this centralized message out into the marketplace. Now that centralized message goes out. That one singular message goes. Great. 30 days go by and you're like, this isn't working. My ads aren't performing. I'm not getting the results that I want. Google is not performing. YouTube is not giving me the results that I want. Well, the problem with that is that you're relying on one singular viewpoint. One, that's it. If I were to ask you a question about anything, right? I could ask you, what do you think about the state of the country today? Everybody's going to have 100 different viewpoints on that. I'm very talkative and I keep slapping my mic. Bad mic. You could have 100 different viewpoints on that, right? So when you watch this and you're going to have a viewpoint, this person's going to have a viewpoint, this one's going to have certain things about it. Some of the guys that we work with, totally polarizing viewpoints. Some of them are super antagonistic. So how do you be this kind of mercurial individual that doesn't necessarily invalidate somebody's viewpoints, kind of bypasses those viewpoints, but is able to communicate to all of those audiences at once? How would you do that? Well, you would look at and be respectful of all those different situations, viewpoints, things that are based on experience, and go through the motions of creating as many different types of ads that try to encapsulate all that messaging. I'll give you an example. We got a real estate company we're marketing right now, and they're doing great on leads. We're focusing on Google, pay-per-click, and YouTube ads. And one of the things that we did is we made this really long document. And if you take, I don't know if you've signed up for my marketing course, but it's $100. But in there, the first thing I have you do is basically what I'm talking about here. You go through this list and you create all the different viewpoints and things that come along with that. And then you market from that perspective, because then you know who your audience actually is. Okay. So what we did is we looked at guys that have inherited property and all of the things that they do wholesaling. So they give you cash offers for their home. So we looked at all the angles of an inherited property, meaning like somebody's living, somebody passed away, and the family inherited a property, or the individual inherited a property. And what are all the reasons why somebody would want to get rid of that inherited property? And we came out just on that one piece. I mean, there were probably 25 different reasons why somebody would want to get rid of that property fast, and why they would accept a cash offer. And that's just one example. Another example would be pre-foreclosure. Okay. Again, we found like 17, 18 different little points as to why somebody would want to offload not an inherited property, but a property that's going into pre-foreclosure. Or there's a landlord that has property that they want to get rid of, and the property is not in great condition, and they don't have the funding to do all the repairs. You know, it needs a new roof, it needs a new cabinet, it needs a new plumbing system. It's just in bad shape. And we found 25, 30 different viewpoints on that. And this is where I talk about, from an audience standpoint and also from a marketing standpoint, why it's such a long-term play. Because when you understand this, and this, I mean, like if you go to my YouTube channel, you'll see all the content that I have, and it's all tailored to different points that I'm trying to capture somebody's attention with, because I know and understand all of those different points. I'm very clear on all the reasons why somebody in an audience would need advertising, regardless of their income, regardless of their social position, regardless of where they're at or what company is going through or how successful that company is. I know what that is because I've done it for so long and I've researched it for so long. So for me, I can fall into that, but a lot of people don't naturally come with it. So coming back to that long-term play, back in 2015 or 16, I began to understand as a sales professional that if I created enough content that could speak to everyone in an audience over a long period of time, I could then substantially have enough content to communicate to that audience, any portion of an audience at any moment, and be able to capture them for business. Because like I said, the mechanical aspects of what I do in marketing and video production, documentary filmmaking, social media distribution, business consulting, that mechanical stuff doesn't change. But what changes is the information that we feed into that machine, right? And by machine, I mean us that execute the deliverables on that. But yes, there's certain sequences that we follow. Yes, there's certain processes that we follow. But I'll tell you, the guys that win the most are the ones that understand their audience so much. I haven't even touched my points yet. We're still on the first one, but I hope that we're just diving in here. But that machine works, okay? And in your business, your machine works. I mean, that's why you have a business, or that's why you're trying to sell a product. But in order to get that product in front of the right people at the right time and be able to communicate enough, you have to hit every single angle. That's why you see all those guys out there that they just produce. I mean, have you ever had the experience when you went and you listened to somebody or maybe you've had it with me when you felt like I was talking directly to you, or you were listening to a motivational speaker and you felt, oh, this guy's talking right to me. Or you've ever experienced that thing where, oh my God, I needed to hear this right at that right time. That happens to me so much that I realize it's not that it's the right time, it's that it's done so effectively over time that I've penetrated this individual's universe enough that it just so happened that that day when I posted that comment, they heard it. Because an audience sees something and then they dismiss it just as quickly, unless they're interested in it and it's sitting right in front of their face every day, right? So if that viewpoint or if that thought is there nonstop, that problem is there nonstop, this is where I say you have to be responsible for this for the sale. You've probably heard some coaches talk about that, being responsible for the sale. What that really means is it's not, oh, yes, I take responsibility because this fell, and I'm just saying it because it sounds good. No. What that means is that I'm able to, because of my own analysis of all the people I've communicated with on the phones, all the people that I've ever encountered in my career as a business owner or a salesperson, that I can now turn around. And when someone says key phrases or goes through specific motions, I'm like, okay, I know exactly where this is going to go. And I know how I need to communicate to this person and how to help this person from a genuine viewpoint. It's not a fabricated, scripted experience. And that's advertising done right. Advertising is not a scripted experience all the time. The best advertising is the one that communicates directly to the people that need to hear it. But the only way that you get there is if you know how to communicate. And the only way that you'll know how to communicate is if you take the time to listen to what people are going through or what people are saying consistently over time on the phone, and then taking that data and transitioning it over to your marketing, to your video content, to your social media posts, right? This way you're never running out of content. You're basing it on problems and pain and the struggles, and you could even base it on the happy things. You could base it on success. You could base it on the hustle. You could base it on how people move themselves into a better condition. I don't know. I don't know how you want to break that down, right? But 9 times out of 10, from a marketing perspective, I just have to know all the angles of the pain. I have to know all the angles of the struggle of an audience. Because when I physically, mechanically, right? So there's the mechanical side of Facebook ads and Google ads and YouTube ads and TikTok ads and all these kinds of ads, the mechanical delivery. But then there's the practical understanding of what to put into the mechanics. And that's what we're talking about here. This will never change, okay? Oh, we'll fix the targeting. We could fix the targeting till we're blue in the face. But if what I'm putting into that targeting isn't correct, it doesn't matter, right? And this is where people get really pissed off with advertising, and they give up on advertising and they say advertising's garbage. Or like you get somebody so adamant and they're just like, I am no longer willing to invest in something that doesn't work. And it's just like, you don't get it. And that is why you are where you are. That is why you'll spend 5 times the amount of money on something else than doing it the correct way over 90 days, 6 months, a year. Like, look, I mean, how, like realistically, like seriously ask yourself, if it was done correctly in the correct gradient, how long do you think it would take? Realistically, do you think that it should take overnight for instant success on that level? No, it just never happens. But this audience analysis, this audience breakdown gives you the fuel you need to inject it into the mechanical machine. And when you have that fuel, and when you have that information correct, when you have the viewpoint of, I know how to communicate because I've assimilated all the angles of pain, I've assimilated all the angles of why people continue to come back and buy from us, I've assimilated all that data into a nice big Robert Syslo or, you know, Marlene, Justin, Eric, David, Daniel book of why we're doing this. I now can take to the marketplace in a new way that actually breaks things down in a strategic manner. It's not shotgun marketing. It's not singular message based marketing. We are identifying familiar points that are similar across an audience. That's the easy thing, right? Now, I've had success in marketing from some of the most abstract things, like things that were way outside of what most people have problems with. And people, people seek to have information to do that. Let me just fix that because I'm out of focus. There we go. And so what I end up doing at that point is when I get that information and that data, I'm able then to attract new people that I haven't been able to touch before. And that's really exciting for me. That actually results in the bigger deals for my company, right? Yes, we have people that come in on certain levels and they retain on those levels. But where it gets really fun is when we're trying to solve a very unique situation. So you got to go outside of that as well. Yes, we want all the similar points that are there from a viewer that are shared as a first entry point. But we also want to go out and find all of the other things that are separate from that are unique, that aren't touched, that aren't explored, that it's just, you think about the wildest problem, and that's the one that we want to go after, right? Last point on really the purpose of this, and then we'll move on, is you're trying to find, well, let me backtrack. You may not be able to sell it on the first go. Right? Some people will tell you, okay, it takes 7 to 12 times to follow up with somebody to sell a deal. And that's kind of true. I mean, at the beginning, as you become more effective as a closer, as you become more effective as a salesperson, that condenses in time because you know how to get right in, solve the problem, you show all the examples, and then you get it done. But in this scenario, what we're talking about is that from a marketing audience selection standpoint, is that it's my job to assimilate as many people into an audience as I can. Now, last week I talked about what I was doing from September. And what I was doing from September was preparing for December and January because it's the craziest time of the year. We just had Thanksgiving, which resulted in like 5 days of like turkey phenom sleepiness. People are still trying to come out of that right now, right? And now we're going into, we got this week, we have next week, and then we have basically 2 weeks of Christmas. And then we have the time warp between that and New Year's. And then you have New Year's. So what I was doing was I was looking at, all right, how could I create as many points of reality for an audience that I could market to over time? What do I mean? Starting in September, I start looking at hitting, dissecting, breaking down, creating content that hits as many different levels that I'm talking about here: problems, pain, struggles, could be happy things, could be viewpoints, could be things along that line. All that stuff becomes fodder now for me to be able to grow and nurture an audience for 90 days. Because then when I drop what I need to drop on them for the next 45 days here in December, I'm not scrambling. And this is what people don't get about audiences. Turn the ads on, get the results. Turn the ad on, give me the results. Oh my God, I invested all this money into my program. And I'm not talking about advertising. I invested all this money into my build out of my program and the creation of what it is that I'm trying to do. And I don't have anybody to sell to. Sorry, bro, you did not do your nurturing, which is what we're talking about right now. There was no development or understanding of the audience. You built it because you wanted money. You didn't build it because you were trying to genuinely solve a problem. See, your initial idea of that concept was to solve problems for people. It was to genuinely help people. But then you got financially invested into it and you built it and you invested money and your bank account's going down and you got nobody to buy. So then what happens is you fall into desperation marketing. You fall into the, I need to make money today, and we only have this much money of advertising to do it in. And so you put yourself in this, I would say, almost impossible situation where it's going to fail. Because the first rule is, as I said, you take stock of why people need this, but you have to know all the reasons why they need it. All the reasons why they need to buy this, because you go to Facebook, do the mechanical thing, select your targeting, go to Google Ads, select your targeting. But if you don't understand all those things and you go out there with the singular hard-hitting message, well, good luck to you, sir and madam. Good luck, because it's not going to work, right? You turn on the ads, you wanted sales right away. It's like, where did you come from? You didn't even exist. You're brand new. You have no audience. You're shooting at audiences is what you're doing. You're shooting, hoping somebody turns around and says to themselves, you know what? I really want to buy this right now and I need it. But that's not how social media works. It does not work that way. It either goes viral through organic distribution, which is like the same chance as getting hit by lightning. You pay for engagement. You pay for that distribution, which is what most people do. You work with other influencers, option 3, which is a great way, by the way, to build and target an audience selection. Work with influencers who are aligned with what it is that you want to do. We're not talking about that so much today because I'm going into you doing it yourself when you're putting in that data and that content into the mechanical machine here, right? So you're building out, but that's the problem, is that you spent $120,000 on building a new program, but you spent no money on generating awareness over the 7 to 8 months that you were building that actual program. And so now your back is against the wall. You've got investors on your you know what, and you feel like you're going to die. You're hyperventilating in the middle of the night because you didn't cultivate the audience while it was building. Well, I don't have a product ready yet. Okay, so what? So what? You don't have the product ready yet. Big deal. Your audience, if you nurture them enough, they'll understand that. In fact, they may even anticipate it more. And I've talked about this before. The movie trailers come out a year before the movie's out. We're already talking about the next iPhone and all those other products before they're out. You could pre-order it 5, 6, 7, 8 months in advance before it's actually ready. But yet nobody seems to take those models that these super successful companies and organizations have and use it. Like, that's what I don't get. It's like, like, people just go out of this and they realize that these companies have cultivated people for years, built that trust, but then you come into the scene and you expect it to just work for you. And you don't even have 0.001% of the budget that these companies have. Now, I'm not saying that to be rude, and I'm not saying that to be a you know what. I'm saying it because it's reality, right? I don't know where that disconnect comes from in the advertising world today, where people just say, well, it should just work. You're running ads. You don't know what you're doing. It's like, no, I know exactly what I'm doing. It's just you need to work with me on the actual process to get this going. So identifying and creating a point to grow and nurture your base from, right? Now, your salespeople hold the key every single day because every single day those problems change. You know, when COVID hit, new problems. Inflation hit, new problems. Okay, real estate happens, new problems. And all that stuff is your audience communicating to you, but you're not taking the time to actually build that into a position where it makes sense. Okay. You're just sticking with the one modus operandi. So when I'm looking at an audience and I'm building an ad campaign on Facebook, I don't have one ad running. I have like 12. I take my budget, I change the message up, and I have like 12 different ads firing. Now, are all 12 of those ads, 13 of those ads going to be successful? No. Am I going to get a majority of them being pretty successful? Maybe not. I'd probably get out of the 12, 4 or 5 that are good, which isn't bad. I mean, it's almost 50%. But it's going to give me an insight to what people want right now. But that doesn't mean that I shut the other ads off. See, most people would shut them off. I am interested in, okay, how do we, it's like, you know, carpet bombing. And I equate marketing and branding to that. I don't know the exact name of the plane, but you've seen the picture when it fires out all the stuff out the back and it's just blanketing, carpet bombing the entire area. We're carpet bombing, but we're carpet bombing targeted based audiences that I know need the product because that particular deal, piece of video, graphic, image, picture is actually communicating the right way that it needs to go. And when I know that that's going to the particular audiences that I set up for, I build upon that and I refine that over time, right? This is that long-term game that I'm talking about. Okay. We're playing because I have an endless, bottomless pit of content that I can just reach in, pull that out, add, reach in, add, reach in, add. Okay. This is audience A. They have these problems, typical demographics. This is audience B. They have these problems, typical demographics, audience C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. I have all these audiences that I can go in and I can talk to, right? Now, is it going to hit, is what I'm targeting audience G going to affect audience B? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe they don't care about that. But if you recall, in one of our earlier trainings, I talked about the penetration of the guy's viewpoints and his world and what he has going on. So even though he may not see your ad from A, he may see your, audience G clip and say, oh, that's the one that I need. And this is how marketing works. You are literally poking people with marketing. That's all you're doing. You're poking as many people as you can until you hit the button and they go, ow, and then you have their attention. You're literally poking them until they turn around and say, oh, I need that. You're eliciting an emotional, reactionary response. It doesn't have to be a negative response. Some people would argue against me and tell you that negative response is better than no response. And that's very bad. I mean, that sounds like I'm in a bad relationship. Oh, I'll get a negative response is better than no response. I'll get some sort of community. That's not what I'm trying to do here. What I'm really trying to do here is I'm trying to poke this person in a way that gets them to react to me so they see me. And that's where the audience analysis comes in. And the only way that I can do that analysis is by talking. The only way that I could do that analysis is by listen to why people bought. The only way that I can poke like that is to listen to why people said no or why they went to the competition. That's my favorite one. When people go to the competition and I find out about it, then I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Let's analyze this, right? And what could I learn from that so that I can incorporate that into my marketing? Or I take why a client's having problems over and over and over and over again. I was working with a company one time, and they were an e-commerce based company. And this is where it kind of gets a little tricky, because you have the owners, and then you have a person that reports to the owners, and then you have the outsourced marketing agency. So they went through like 6 agencies before us, and they came to us, and that was a red flag. I probably should have acknowledged that. But again, this was a tough scenario for me. We did everything by the book, everything that I'm telling you right now, every single thing. And we were getting good results. We were basically above by about 10 to 20% in sales. But that wasn't enough, right? That wasn't enough. But what ended up happening is that it turned into the situation where there was control being shifted around from the company side versus us. And this was when I was really kind of young in this space, but it turned into, they wanted it done this way. And even though we were saying hey, this is the method that we have to do it by, this is the audience, mechanics that we have to follow, even though they started not listening to that, and their sales started to go down, right? But that's the thing. If you're following what I'm talking about, and if you're working with an agency that's respectable, that communicates to you, or you yourself, and you want to do this, you're looking at the viewpoint of, did you break this down into multiple audiences? Like, how are you breaking this out? How many different types of content do I need to create to make this, right? And you got to try to fit that into the schedule. And what do I mean by that? You want to fit all that content somehow into your distribution, right? You could boost that post, you could advertise that post, you could cycle through all of that content in your Facebook ads for all those different audiences. But as long as you're taking it from that viewpoint and perspective of, where is this coming from, right? Okay, this guy's got this problem, but her problem is different from this problem. My product solves both of their problems, but I can't rely on this piece of creative to be able to speak to both of them. So how do I have to do that? Okay, well, I'm going to make 2 pieces of creative, because if he has this problem and she has that problem, they're not the only people on planet Earth that probably have those same problems. And then that exponentially repeats itself over and over and over again, right? And that's what we're interested in when audience analysis and audience selection. That's what we're interested in. We're interested in, what does A, B, C, D, E have? And those are kind of our profiles. And then we build from there. And any new data, any new information that may come in at any time, you know, a new type of a client, a new type of a economical situation, a new type of, you know, anything that comes into the universe that results in some sort of forward progress for your business, as in a, you know, AKA a sale, you know, or an acquired follower, you then add that into another audience for yourself, and you start building out that profile. And then you start building out that content that needs to go. And so that is why I'm such a stickler about content, right? And the guys, just look at the successful people. Look at them. What do they do? How many different flavors of content do they have? Just look at it and you'll see this is what I'm saying, right? Well, I don't have time to do that. I talked to a guy today, dude's, you know, I don't have time. I'm like, listen, you ordered a brand new Lamborghini. How long did that take? 5 hours? So you're telling me you'd rather go do the Lambo thing, but not do what I'm talking about. Like, don't give me that BS, dude. And I said that exactly like that. Don't give me the BS, because it's a lie. And I know you have the time, and I know you have the money, because I know you have all the toys. And I told him this right to his face. I don't have any back off on saying what it is, but you have to look at it from that perspective. Can I actually create multiple audiences based on all the struggles, problems, situations, happy points, bad points, sad points, pleasure points that devise the total encompassing marketing strategy for me, right? What is that total encompassing marketing strategy for my products, of myself, that injects into every single one of those different audiences, from an income level, from an economical level, from a societal level, from a location level, from a car level, from an interest level, you know, from a gender level now with today, you know, what does it break down into? And can you communicate to all of them? And that's what we're talking about. The biggest one, obviously, that I find the most, that works the most effectively, is the failure aspect. I'm in pain and I need you to solve my problem. I've tried everything and I can't get it to work. I've tried X, I've tried Y, I've tried Z, and da, 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 da. That's an audience right there. Have you tried this? Have you tried that? Are you tired of this? Are you complaining? Are you tired of bitching? Are you tired of blah, 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 blah? And they're like broken. I call that the broken record audience, or the self-loathing audience, or the victim audience, right? How do you talk to the victims, right? A victim has a low ability to be able to confront things. A victim is, this is happening to me, and I accept no responsibility that I might have caused it in some way. Maybe I shouldn't have been there. Maybe I shouldn't have bought that. Maybe I shouldn't have done this, right? So how do you talk to that person without hurting their feelings, right? How do you do that? Or how do you talk to the egotistical, I love my cars, jets, or whatever, you know, I rented a private jet, you know what I mean? I'm taking a picture in front of this. I got more tattoos than, you know, a samurai. Do they do tattoos? Native, you know, whatever. You know, how do you talk to that guy? How do you break that down, right? You are the vessel to the audience. You're mercurial. You're a ninja, okay? You're trying to solve problems. It doesn't matter how you get that problem solved, as long as it's within an ethical means. But from an audience standpoint, you're the only one that knows. You're above it. You have to look at it like there's a pot, here's a pot, here's a pot, here's a pot, here's a pot. And you're above all the pots, and you're looking at all the pots, and you're like, that one's boiling, that one's a simmer, that one needs a little bit more heat, this one needs a little bit more seasoning, this one doesn't have enough olive oil. And you look at it and you know what you need to do, right? Because you create your audience's universe for them, right? You're creating the reality of that audience in there, okay? It's not, yes, they have preconceived notions. Yes, they have preconceived ideas. Yes, they've had experiences that are going to taint how they make decisions. Yes, they have been given good advice. Yes, they have been given bad advice. But you, as a marketer, in your ads, from the mechanical machine standpoint, have to know exactly how to communicate across the board to all those different pots, to all those different groups. And that's what I'm talking about right now. Sit in the angry people's house and listen to the angry people and try to assume the viewpoint of their anger and ask yourself, what would I say to this person to make them chill? And how would they want to come talk to me? And realize that we can solve this problem together. Look at the victim viewpoint or the person that's struggling or the person that's upset, and literally just remove your own emotions out of it. Remove your own feelings. Remove your own judgments. Put it in a box for 30 minutes. Put it over there and just sit there and look at it and just say, what is in front of me? This is what's in front of me. This is what they're saying. This is what they're struggling with. They can't see this. They can't see this. They don't understand. Oh, they're missing this data. Just look. Don't judge it. Just look at it. Your audience analysis. Okay. Then go look at your corporate honchos. I struggle with corporate a little bit. I can do it, but I struggle with it. It's not my favorite thing. It's just a different culture. But I remove the judgments out. I remove the emotion out. I remove the desire out of it, because it's not about me. It's about serving that group, right? All I'm doing is jumping from group to group to group to group to group, listening, analyzing. Here's the solution. And here are 17 different ways you can access this solution. And here are 17 different ways that I can say this so that maybe one of these will get through to you, because these are all tried and true things that I have observed, right? But really, an audience analysis expert has the ability to just sit, remove all emotion, remove all preconceived ideas, remove anything and everything that could taint or want them to inject their own pride into their marketing, and just look at it objectively and say, what does this audience need now? And I have that list. I have that information. I have that data. Good. Now I can go over to my Facebook ads and set this up correctly with the correct creative. Now I can go over to my Google ads and I can set this up with the correct data and the correct creative. You are a massive data collector. That is what you are when you are analyzing an audience. You're a data collection bank, right? Yeah, Facebook collects all our data, right? Google collects all our data because we market to them. Well, they do that so we can market to the people. It's just a pool. So you do it yourself as well. How is it that I could collect more data from individuals that would put me in a situation where I can communicate to them and continue to communicate to them and over communicate to this particular segment of an audience until they hear it? How can I raise the status of someone who's in kind of a victim mode or poor me mode and put them into a place where they could actually listen to what I have to tell them, that there is a way out, instead of blaming everybody? Or how do I get the corporate guys that are like, no, we're fine, we're winning, we're doing well already, we don't need anything else, everything is good, everything is taken care of, this is fine, Robert, we're good. Okay, great. Where could you be? Right? How much further along could you be that you're not? Where could you be existing that you're not? Yes, I get it. You're great. You are great. In fact, you dominate the space. In fact, you dominate the industry, but how much further could you go? And what are you doing to get there? See, because that's what that guy's thinking about. This one's like trying to retract. This guy's trying to accelerate. Two totally different parts of an audience. But what most advertisers do is they select the audience and they run the ad and they're trying to hit both these people. And guess what happens? It zings right past them both. Goes right, doesn't even make a noise, doesn't even make a sound. It could be the loudest, brightest thing. But like I said, people exist in different scenarios and they have different things going on in the world and they just don't see it. Right? So what we're talking about here is audience selection, audience analysis for the purpose of getting you seen. Really, it's the purpose of getting you seen. And the only way that you can be seen is to communicate the right thing. And the only way that you're going to communicate the right thing is to be able to understand and extract all across as many people as you possibly can where they're all at where they're all going, where do they come from, what are they experiencing, what are they struggling with, what is the breakdown to those pieces that they need in order to solve the problem, right? Because otherwise you're going to fall into the trap of advertising's terrible and I spent all this money and it doesn't work. And that ad agency is bad. This guy's bad. This guy got lucky. No, nobody got lucky. Okay. They just did what I'm telling you. Right? We want to look at as many profiles of an individual as possible. And we want to create as many variations of those profiles in our targeting, right? See if they have the specific interest that you find as a targeting interest and get in there. Google is probably the best one. Like if you wanted to talk about the most effective platform out there right now to select audiences in the most efficient way is going to be Google and YouTube. I'm sorry, it's just the best, right? Facebook's a close second. Although I'm going to say that Facebook and Instagram recently, I would say as recently as the last couple of weeks, has kind of started to turn the corner for small businesses and medium-sized businesses, giving them a little bit more access to different things. It's almost as if they realized that people were going to leave the platform. And again, here's what I'm talking about. They were catering to the wrong audience. Yeah, are there big corporations that can blow $5 million, $10 million a month on advertising? Absolutely. Absolutely. But the majority of people out there go to Facebook because they get the majority of their business from Facebook and Instagram. And those are small, entrepreneurial, solopreneur-based business owners. And so what I think has happened is that they took stock and they said, we're not communicating to the right audience that we need to right now. We need to broaden the horizon on that front. And that's what you need to do. As an individual, you need to look at it from the standpoint and say to yourself, can I actually broaden my horizon here, right? Will this help me dictate better the direction of the content that I'm trying to create? Will it help me create more content if I do this much of an analysis on this? If I really stop and I just look and I just listen and I observe, I don't put what I think is there or what I imagine to be there. I stop and I look at what is there. Like, what do I see right now? You know what I mean? And it's a cool thing if you can pull that off, because a lot of times we kind of put in our own viewpoint of like, oh, this is what I actually see, but that's not actually what is there. You know, this is what gets into trouble. Oh, I saw all the red flags, but I didn't do anything about it. You're right, because you didn't look at it. Oh, I had this horrible relationship. Saw all the signs, but I didn't do anything about it. Well, that's marketing. I see everything. I hear everything. I see all the things that people need, but I don't do anything about it. I just one message box, mold it up and distribute, and then repeat that over and over again. Right? You have to broaden the view, get out of yourself, remove all the emotion, the judgment, all your training, everything. Just put it over there and just assume as if you were like these people and say, what is it that I would like to know? If somebody could tell me something about this, what is it I want to hear? If I was living in this frame of mind, if I was existing in this frame of mind, if I was going through these problems, like really get into it, if I was really struggling for money, but I knew my product could solve that problem, what would I say to me? What would I want to hear that would make me want to buy it? Right? Or if I was going to buy X, what would I want to hear that would make me want to buy it? And that is where your audience analysis helps your marketing advance, because you've done it. You're not in the ecosystem of the business. You're not in what you think people want. It's not about what you think people want. It's about what people want, really. I could put that on a shirt. It's about what people want really. And the only way you're going to find out that quote unquote really is if you stop, look, analyze, listen, right? So if you can help people to further see you with the breakdown, and a huge breakdown of an audience, cross section in audience across the board, you're going to be positioned to the setup and the distribution of your ads to actually work for you rather than against you, rather than creating this just bottomless pit of marketing dollars that goes nowhere. And you forever say, I'm never going to do advertising again. I'm never going to experience this again. We're never going to do it this way again because it doesn't work. But I'm telling you right now that this breakdown that we just went through over the last 55 minutes or so is exactly what I'm saying. Your salespeople hold the answer. Your current customers and why they keep coming back hold the answer. The people that said no to you, they also hold the answer. The people that make fun of you hold the answer, right? Your biggest supporters, your biggest haters, they have the answer for you and they're telling it to you so you can use it to your advantage. And most people won't use it to their advantage. I don't know why. It's like free. It's like you don't even have to hire somebody to go do an analysis for you. It's just served up to you every day, right? Understanding the viewpoint of an audience and assuming that viewpoint is the make or break point for a successful marketing campaign, the successful distribution, and the successful mechanical delivery of it. Look, I've made the mistakes, right? When I first started doing it 7 years ago, it was just, okay, I'm just going to talk. People are going to want to hear about this. People want to hear about that. I'd listen to other people tell me what they thought people would want to hear, but they didn't have the reality that I wanted. They didn't have the viewpoint that I really wanted to draw in from. You know what I mean? They didn't have that. They thought they did, but they didn't do the work. They didn't do the full breakdown. They didn't do the full analysis that we're discussing. And this is deep stuff, okay? This isn't going to take you 100 hours. By no means should it take you 100 hours. If anything, you should already be doing it. You could do it in a day and already be well ahead of where everybody else is at. You know what the problem is with the NFT people and the crypto people is that they're self-absorbed with the fact of the NFT crypto thing. That's the problem. I don't see anybody making that accessible to anyone. And if they made it, meaning, what do I mean by accessible, right? Let's say, see, they're only thinking about their own pockets here. And that's the problem with the marketing, okay? They're like, oh, I made money with crypto and I made money with NFTs. Well, great. That's wonderful. And it's, to my understanding, the way that that works is the more people that go in, the more value it goes up. So if my game is to get more people in, I'm not going to be like, dude, I made all this money. I'm going to make it easily accessible. And then I want to look at people who possibly have money that could play the game, right? I want to look at people who actually could drop 30, 50, 100, that millions of dollars into this space and say to myself, well, why would somebody want to do that? And what do I have to say to that person to get them to really get it? Like I had a great conversation. I bought this product recently a few days ago, and the salesperson was True Pro, and they broke it down. I asked all the questions, and I wanted to know more, and I wanted to know how these things broke apart and how this was built and how that was built and how these things came across. I'm just moving this so this could refocus. There we go. And they gave me all the answers that I wanted. And then I was able to get in there, and it made sense to me. I was like, oh, I get this. Oh man, why are you doing that? There we go. I was able to really, I'm just going to put my hand there to help with the focus. It's going to help me understand why I should invest into this, right? I didn't buy crypto. It was something else. But again, they assumed my viewpoint. They heard my viewpoint, which made me feel good. They addressed the fact that my viewpoint was heard, also something a lot of people don't do in marketing. They were able to break it out at different angles of that content. I'm pretty sure they're going to go take that and distribute that into the marketplace. And that's going to become their modus operandi. They should. If they don't do it, well, sayonara. But that's what we're discussing here, is we're discussing that viewpoint of how can you put that into a better position, right? How can you get that audience to say, I see you, I like what you have, I'm interested to know more, I want to be a part of it, I want to be connected to you, right? We're going to use age, we're going to use income, we're going to use economic problems and economic benefits. We're going to use social problems and social solutions. We're going to use the platforms that are free and that were provided to us so that we're able to actually get this audience in a better position so that they see us. Because most people don't, like, they think they're communicating, they think they're being seen, you know, they think they're being heard. I don't know what they're, I don't know. Like, I've listened to some people talk and I'm just like, where are you? Like, what planet do you exist on? Because this, I don't know what you're saying, right? And then I lose interest. So the next time that you're thinking about audience selection, audience analysis, how to set up your targeting, do this first. Make sure you did this first. Make sure that you watch this video again. Make sure that you have a hell of a lot of points to be able to navigate with in relation to your marketing efforts. Make sure you got so many breakdowns of points and different things that exist out there for the products and all the segments of that audience. You hear audience segmentation. This is what we're talking about. This whole thing has been audience segmentation, but we're doing it on a little bit of a more in-depth and a little bit more of a constructive basis so that you get better results for your Facebook ads, your Google ads, your campaigns, and your social media. All right. So that's everything that I wanted to cover with you tonight. I'll leave it open for a couple of minutes for questions. If you have questions, let's hear it. If not, this will be up again on my YouTube channel. You can subscribe to it, come back to it, and we'll be back next week again for SysloSpice. All right. So if you have questions, put it in chat and I'll see them and I'll answer them if you have a question. If not, we'll just kind of end off and you guys can go do your own audience analysis tonight. Beautiful. All right. Nobody has any questions. Well, good. If you need anything from me, let me know. Reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to answer. Otherwise, I'll see you all next week. Thank you so much for signing on. You all take care.